Hello, everyone. Welcome back to AFC Newsday. It's Saturday night, and we're doing a Saturday night preview. It must be a big game. It is a big game. We're going to be previewing Arsenal versus Manchester City away at the Etihad. Season defining, maybe. I don't know. I can bring someone in to ask that question too. Matt is here, as he always is. Season defining game, Matt?
Very tough to say. I mean, it's a massive one. That's an understatement, but it is a massive one.
It's a huge one. How are you, mate? You well? How's things in your household and your life on Twitter?
Pretty good, thank you. Pretty good, thank you. My parents are United fans, so hopefully don't hear any
Oh,
screams from anything there. But it's quite funny because as we're recording, United are playing Brentford.
yeah.
So you might hear, you might get some live updates while watching this too. How are
We
you, my
yeah
friend?
we've got the game on too. So if you are watching and wanting to keep up to date, we will give you, we'll give Matt an opportunity to show us some of his broadcasting skills, and he can give us updates into this game. I must say I think they just hit the crossbar, very close to hitting the
Brilliant.
crossbar. Brentford did, but brilliant game. And we're going to talk Arsenal. We're going to talk about lots of things ahead of this game. And there's someone that is very much admired in from me personally on Twitter, someone that is really very articulate and knows what he's talking about when it comes to Arsenal. Matt, of course, you fit that description as well. But the person that's going to be joining us for this is Rohan, the wonderful Rohan, and he's back again for your second appearance on the channel.
Third.
Of course, I forget about the live one.
Not the live, including the
Yes.
one we did on the studio. Yes, a third one.
Yeah, there we go. How are you, my friend? Brilliant to have you back on.
Buzzing. Good, feeling good. Vintage Barclays this. I don't know how much of the games you caught today, but honestly, so good. The Newcastle game, then the Chelsea game. And then you had a cheeky bit of Bayern and Dortmund, just as a little what's it called? A starter. That's it. I've completely blanked there. A starter. And then the dessert, of course, the stream. Who cares about the Man United game? Actually, no. Keep us updated on that. Keep us updated.
Yeah, we will do, and we can maybe slightly hope that Brentford can get something out of this game. But like you say, a vintage day of Premier League. That Newcastle game, absolutely outrageous. With Harvey Barnes coming on, he very ironically scored the equaliser, Harvey Barnes, and then he scored the winner as well. But bizarre game from Anthony Gordon getting sent off for a second yellow for kicking the ball away. But yeah, I must say, by the way, just looking early on, Brentford are looking good. They're looking quite dangerous on the counter-attack, and Ivan Toney's just missed a decent chance again. But yeah, we'll keep you updated with that one. Boys, let's talk about Arsenal. We're going to get to the main kind of juicy bit of the Manchester City preview, and we've got a very special Manchester City guest joining us later on as well to get their side of the preview, the lowdown, what Arsenal fans can expect from Manchester City. We'll discuss it all later on. If you are watching, then please really do appreciate any subscribes, any follows. It'd be great to have more people to stick around to follow our content. More people like Rohan and Matt joining the streams. Always great to have these guys on, and you can stick around for more of it, of course. Boys, we're going to get onto the Man City kind of lowdown, but first of all, international break. Watch much of it? Rohan, I'll ask you first. Did you watch much of it? Do you take much of it in?
I made the great decision not to watch the England-Brazil game. I watched Germany-France, Kai Havertz ball, which was good. And then
nice.
I did watch the England-Belgium game because there were quite a few interesting players to see. Obviously, Rice, Trossard for us, but also Onana, who we've been linked to as well. So that was a decent game. But apart from that, honestly, it just international break is the worst. And the thing is, for us, it feels like it's been ages since we played because we didn't even play on the weekend before the break. Our last game was against Porto, so it's a fair amount of time now before we've actually played. So that could be good and bad. We'll see tomorrow.
Yeah, no, we will wait and see. Lots of Arsenal players in action over the international break. Interesting as well when people were making comparisons of Rice and Onana squaring up to each other, and Eddie and Rice squaring up to each other a few years ago at the London Stadium. That was quite interesting to see. Matt, any groundbreaking news from the international break for you, my friend?
Not really, to be honest. Just happy that I think that Newcastle West Ham game just epitomised the level club football's at compared to international, because that game was just complete and utter chaos. And as Rohan mentioned, some of the games today have been brilliant. And the international break, I mean, you know, you can have big clashes on paper, but not too much. You know, one thing I will say is Verbruggen impressed me massively from what I saw during the international break, and that's the findings from the international break.
Nice. Nice one, Matt. Appreciate that.
What about you, Dan?
It wasn't. No, it wasn't masses. I went and watched Ghostbusters when England played Belgium, and really, again, Ghostbusters was quite poor. So I kind of should have just sat in a room and looked at a wall, and I probably wouldn't have missed out. But yeah, no, it was. I mean, feel free to go and see it for yourselves and have your own opinions. But yeah, nothing much. But again, it's been quite relentless. You know, the period of between over Christmas and everything, especially I mean, I guess work wise as well. So it's been nice to have a bit of a break. But I'm really excited for this run in for across the Premier League and obviously with Arsenal, but also the Championship run in is getting quite juicy as Brentford miss another big chance. Brentford are dominating right now.
Them. Yeah,
Brentford are dominating right now. But Rohan, we obviously haven't had you on for a little bit, so I just wanted to get your reaction and thoughts on Arsenal's Champions League stuff so far. Of course, we covered that in our last episode. But what are your thoughts on Arsenal getting Bayern Munich in the next round of the Champions League, and any kind of overriding emotions from the Porto game? Brilliant occasion. Missed the penalties personally, but hope you enjoyed them watching them yourself.
But you were still there. You were still there in spirit. That game was just. It was madness. It was giving me Sporting flashbacks when it went to penalties. But then I remember the penalties. Obviously, we watched together at the Emirates Stadium, the Emirates Cup against Monaco at the time. And Ramsdale having an absolute belter, and then obviously against City in the Community Shield as well. And it feels like there's a clear method in our penalties. And I think James, who we know, he spoke about a lot in terms of the psychology to it and how. The players who are stepping up to take a spot kick, they're taking an extra few seconds after the referee blows the whistles to just allow themselves to reset, calm down. And you saw the penalties, they were incredible. And I think the way that Porto played, I would say that's the best way to kind of operate against Arsenal in terms of that mid-block and how they squeeze in the middle of the pitch. They don't allow you space between the defensive and midfield line. And you have to try and go over the top to gain significant joy against them. And actually, when you see the build-up to our goal that Trossard scored, it actually comes from that. But those teams who are very physical and technically secure, which is what you do see in Europe, those types of teams, I think, can have decent joy against us. And that's why I actually didn't want the likes of Inter or Atletico. I was looking at that draw. And obviously, with being Atletico, I didn't want to play one of those teams because it would be very similar to what Porto did to us. So Bayern Munich, I'm excited because there's so many good narratives to it. You've got Arteta versus Tuchel. You've obviously got Harry Kane coming back. And obviously, what Bayern have done to Arsenal over the years in the Champions League. Either Bayern Munich or Barcelona, that's what I wanted. And, with the Champions League, you want to be in the high octane clashes where you can showcase your qualities and talents. And we've got a great opportunity to do that now. And I think being at home gives us the advantage in a way in which it will allow us to play more with a more expressive manner. Whereas I think away from home, the advantage playing the second leg at home, obviously, is if it goes to extra time, it goes to penalties, you have that crowd by your side that allows you to be that 12th man to help you see you over the line. But I do think us under Arteta, I think we'll see us play a little bit more, like I alluded to, a bit more expansive by being at home. And also with no Bayern Munich fans there as well, I think it's a really good opportunity for us to capitalise on that. So looking forward to it. We will be there, obviously.
We will.
Yeah, we will.
Really looking forward to it. Yeah, I'm actually, was very fortunate to get, lucky with the ballot. So I've got tickets, and I'm actually sat in where the Bayern Munich fans would have been. So that will be interesting. It'll be an interesting dynamic, wouldn't it? If Bayern Munich score a goal and there's no one to celebrate. But there you go. Really excited for that one. Matt, we've covered all bases with the Bayern Munich draw result in the Champions League. Have you got any kind of other further emotions on that that particular draw. You know, there's been a few injury kind of talks. You know, Harry Kane left. He left the England camp injured, didn't he? But there's no doubt in my mind that he'll be fit and starting for both of those games. And I don't know what the kind of Bayern Munich situation is at the moment, but you're going away as well, aren't you? I mean, come on, talk to us. What's going on with that? You're going home and away, hopefully, aren't you?
Ironically, no idea about home yet. Hopefully I can get a ticket through the ballot or in some manner. But the away game, we will most certainly be there. So very much looking forward to that.
Oh no, I think we've lost
Kane played
Matt
today, scored, got this.
Matt, have we got you back? Yeah, we got you back now. Sorry, mate. Have you? No, we got you, Matt. Sorry, say that again, mate. Sorry, we lost you for a second. Carry on.
Just a bit of a disclaimer as well. I have got a lot of tabs open because of university work.
Close the tabs, Matt. Close the tabs.
They cannot be closed because they'll rush close them, and then I might need stuff, and it's a bad idea.
Oh, no. Okay.
I mean, for my diss, I think that's fair enough.
It's for your diss. Okay, I just thought you had random tabs open. Like, okay,
no, for university. And then my laptop rebooted itself as well when I haven't looked through. So there's that. So I might, cut out a bit more than normal, which is not ideal. But yeah, very, very excited. Don't know if I'll get for the home game. Hopefully I will, which is quite funny. But the away game, very, very much looking forward to going to it. Never been to an away in Europe with Arsenal, so that'll be class. And hopefully, celebrating us going to the semi-finals in the night and not crashing out. But I'm excited. I think it is a very favourable draw. And today, Bayern lost 2-0 to Dortmund. Kane scored a goal, got disallowed. On the topic of Kane, but yeah, I think it's a favourable matchup, and it's a real chance, particularly with that home leg first, to stamp our authority, and then the second leg to be a bit more pragmatic maybe and hit him in transition like Dortmund did today. Is there a chance to update us on the Brentford United game with the?
No, just more Brentford chances. More Brentford chances. I'm actually gonna be I'm gonna be insightful here and a good journalist, and I'm going to give you some of the stats. They must have had they've had lots of shots on target so far. Ivan Toney hit the inside of the post. Here we go. Brentford have had 12 shots, none on target. And Man United have had 3 and 1 on target. So at the moment, Brentford have got 46% possession, Man United 54%. But the chances are all Brentford at the moment. 12
Sounds
shots.
Like peak Ten Hag ball.
Yeah, you're not wrong. So we'll carry on keeping an eye on that one. Matt, have you booked your flights for that, or have you just got the tickets and hopefully you make it there?
I'm actually walking. No. Flights are sorted, hotels are sorted, tickets sorted. Very, very excited.
Brilliant, mate. Well, we'll look forward to hearing from you in that one. Really exciting with that. Let's talk a bit more about this game then. The Champions League's really exciting. Looking forward to those games and Bayern Munich home and away. Big opportunity for Arsenal to show themselves off on the big stage, and some really, really mouth-watering ties, I think, across the rest of the competition. So, from a personal point of view, I think the Champions League, maybe, obviously Arsenal were in it, so I'm more invested in the competition this year. But just looking at it, the matchups are, really, really exciting. So, excuse me, looking forward to seeing some of them. But Arsenal have got the small matter of Manchester City at the Etihad tomorrow in the Premier League. Really, really looking forward to it. Really excited. I'll read you a few stats in a second, but Rohan, Manchester City, are you nervous? Is nervous? What emotions are you feeling?
I'm nervous. I think I'm feeling it now. I don't know about you, but during the week I was all right. I was pretty relaxed, but now, because it's getting closer and closer, I think tomorrow. Do you know what's really annoying with these 4:30 games? Is that I'll just get nothing done throughout the day because I'll just be thinking about it, and then it's just a waste of a morning and afternoon. But we get a good result. Doesn't matter, does it? And I think generally, looking at the game, as Arsenal fans, I think we should be very confident going into it, because if we can't be confident going into this game now against Man City on the run, on the back end of an 8-game winning streak in the Premier League, which is the first time we've done this since 2015, when can we be confident? Going into a game in which Man City will have no John Stones, no Kyle Walker, according to Pep. It could be dark arts. They could be playing, but that's that's a really good opportunity for us to really capitalize on some of those absentees. And I do think I've mentioned it on Twitter, and that John Stones missing Man City impacts them more than Martinelli missing for us. That's the big doubt that we have. And I think, there was an interesting quote that came out from Arteta from Sky Sports today, where he alluded to last season's, nightmare at the Etihad being as an experience that they've used to try and be better. And we've seen it in the Community Shield. We've seen it at the Emirates this season, winning both games against Man City. You can tell that we've learnt from it. And sometimes in life, you just need the toughest of moments to be able to be better and to react in a positive way. And I think going into it tomorrow, there's a really good opportunity for us to make a statement. I think it's very much a game where just don't lose. Don't lose, get in and get out with something. And then you're looking at it, 4 points against Man City over the course of the season. That is a really healthy return. For me, the problem that we had last season, one of the biggest ones, was the fact that we allowed Man City to take 6 points off us. You cannot let your rivals take maximum points. So actually, when you consider what we've done already, beating them at the Emirates, we've already taken 3 points. So even if we lose tomorrow, I would say we should not look back on this game as the defining moment as to why Arsenal potentially might not win the league. We should be looking at games against Fulham, twice against Fulham, which we've not been able to win one. Those are the games that we should be looking at. Whereas Man City, we've already beaten them once this season. So although it's defining, given how close it is now, but I wouldn't look at this game as one to say, had Arsenal not win it, if we don't win it, if we lose, we should be looking back on it as the reason why we didn't win the league. So,
yeah, no, it's very, very valid points there. And just to look through that team news, John Stones and Kyle Walker, as you highlighted, both suffered injuries on England duty, so we're led to believe that they won't be in contention for that game. Manuel Akanji, Kevin De Bruyne and Mateus Nunes have been passed fit for this game, and Edison's likely to also start after recovering from a muscle injury, of course, which I'm sure people will remember from that Liverpool game when he was sent off after kicking Darwin Nunez. Mikel Arteta has said there's a chance that the injured trio, Gabriel, Bukayo Saka and Gabriel Martinelli, will recover for the game. I'm sure that, he'll say that to the media, but I'd be very surprised if Saka and Gabriel didn't start personally. Martinelli's been out for the last few games, so I think he'll probably start on the bench, Martinelli. And they also say, of course, David Raya will return after missing the win over his parent club, Brentford, in that game. So that's the kind of team news, injury news ahead of that one. Rohan, I remember in our very special pre-season podcast we did, you mentioned about just we previewed the Community Shield, and you just said from a mentality point of view, it's so important that Arsenal get something over them, even if it's in pre-season. Just from a mentality point of view, to win against them is so important. Arsenal obviously then went on and won via penalties, didn't win over 90 minutes. It was a draw in the end. But won in penalties, and then they've also beat Manchester City in the league this season. 1-0 win, Gabriel Martinelli. Really, really, it was a game that was like it was like a game of chess. I remember watching that one, just so kind of cagey. You move here, we move here. It's so kind of, it's so interesting to watch. The two tactical battles. But Arsenal got over the line in the end. They won again. How important do you think it is, just from a confidence point of view, that they've beaten them twice already in this technically in this footballing season, including the Community Shield, but mainly that game at home? How important do you think that is?
Yeah, I think we've had so many games against City over the years where tactically we've been excellent. We've nullified them. It's been very equal, and what's decided it is fine margins. So you go back to the 21-22 season when Rodri scored the winner, and even last season, I'd argue the game at the Emirates, we created a lot of really good situations. City did as well, and I didn't think it was a scoreline, a 3-1 scoreline to City. I didn't think that result, that score justified the performance. And Jack Grealish even came afterwards and said that Arsenal were the better team in that game. So we've had many games where we played Man City and we've done really well. But the reality is that no one cares until you get over the line and you win. And that's why, when we did that preview for the Community Shield, beating them was so important in terms of instilling belief that we can do this. But then obviously the narrative is that, you didn't beat them over 90 minutes. You won by penalties. And then to go in the game at the Emirates without Saka and Martinelli starting as well, which is very, very important to note, to beat them over 90 minutes, again, it installs more confidence. It installs more belief that we can beat the elite. And I think those experiences that we've had already, and how I think it's all came from how we've reacted post the 4-1 defeat to City at the Etihad. It shaped us in a way that is going to give us confidence going into the game tomorrow. And I think we've went to the Etihad many times with a depleted squad, players who are not fully fit, like Thomas Partey at the time as well. Obviously, he who shall not be named started that game as well. And our form hasn't been great. But now we go into it with such significant momentum. We are the form team. We're top of the league. We've got, I think it will be, I don't know about Martinelli, but I think everyone else, you will see them play and they'll start. We have a fully fit squad almost, going into one of the most important games that we've had over the last decade or two. We should be confident, and I do think we can create something special tomorrow. I really do. I've got this picture of a set piece goal from Gabriel. I don't know if you can remember. It was quite a while ago when we played Man City. They were 1-0 up, and I think it was Joleon Lescott who scored. And then, like the 83rd minute, it was a set piece. It was a corner, and Koscielny smashed it into the top.
I remember. Yeah.
To make it 1-1. I've got a feeling it's going to be like that. It's going to be Gabriel, but it's going to be 0-0, and the limbs.
There would be limbs, yeah. The prospect of what can happen is very exciting. And I should also say, by the way, is half-time Brentford 0, Man United 0. Brentford with a lot of chances in that game, but we will keep you across that match stats. Brentford had 14 shots, 1 on target in the first half. Mental. There you go. Of course, Arsenal's record at the Etihad isn't brilliant. Manchester City are unbeaten as well this season in 38. Well, not just this season, but they're unbeaten in 38 matches at the Etihad in all competitions, winning 33 and drawing 5. Matt, it's an intimidating place to go, isn't it?
It is, but I think what last season City was almost an anomaly to other Pep teams or other City teams. A side who were ridiculously ruthless and efficient when they turned it on in that second half of the season without being too far behind in the first part. We put up a ridiculous first 20 games or first 18 games or so, getting 50 points more or less, I think it was. And they kept a relative tab on that, and then also exploded second half of the season. And you look at City in big games last season, they beat Real Madrid 4-0 or 4-1. They beat Liverpool 3 or 4-1, I think it was. They beat us 4-1. They beat United 6-3. They beat, every team they played. I think they beat Chelsea twice over very... Was that just cut off?
Yeah, no, you're back now.
You're back. Yeah, I think you're back.
Brilliant. But yeah, like what I was saying is City last season were an anomaly side to this season City. This season City feels more of a previous City side, not quite the Centurion level because they just haven't been as efficient in the final third. I think Haaland's missed a lot of chances. Obviously, De Bruyne's missed a lot of the season, and they've not been as efficient as a City side, particularly what last season City side were. And I think they're paying the price for not replacing Gundogan and having key players injured. And all still there, right? Just checking, so I don't want to.
Still there, mate. You're still there.
Perfect. But yeah, this season City side, obviously they're still a top side, but they're very gettable and they're very vulnerable in transitions, even at the Etihad or particularly at the Etihad. And that's not something we saw from City last season. What we saw from City last season was a side who hardly conceded any chances, were ridiculously ruthless when they got the chances, and also dominated games. John Stones was a huge part of that as well, and he's seemingly going to be out for tomorrow's game, which is massive if obviously Pep's words are true. So I think obviously it's a very intimidating place, and obviously the record speaks to themselves, having 39 games in a row at the Etihad, only losing that one to Brentford last season. But it's not the same level of City side as it is last season. That doesn't mean they're not a top team, but they are far more gettable than they were last season, in my opinion. And as Rohan said, if you can't go into this game now confident, then when can you ever?
Yeah, It's really exciting. I'm really looking forward to it, and I do agree. I think City are a little bit, maybe not quite as what they were last season. And also, Rohan, I don't know if you feel like, just from an observation point of view, I feel like last season City obviously didn't start the best, but then they just absolutely, by the end of the season, they were absolutely firing. It was absolutely incredible. Um, Matt's just going to quickly, Matt, if you just drop out for a second. Sorry, Matt's having a few technical issues. If Matt drops out, and he's going to join back very shortly, and we're going to be joined by a Manchester City fan as well to get the lowdown on the City side. Matt's going to try and close some of his tabs. um,
Oh, bless.
Rohan, my point being, Arsenal, obviously, do you feel like that you can compare Arsenal this season to last season's Man City a little bit, by whereas they didn't necessarily start the best, but by, getting into the business end of the season, Arsenal are really kicking on now, aren't they?
Yeah, that's a really good point. I think there are similarities to how Arsenal have been this season to how City have operated under Guardiola, where they don't peak too early. They try and peak towards the latter stages because ultimately that's what counts. You give yourself the platform to go hard at the end, and then in that period where you're going hard at the end, you're peaking. And I think when you look at Arsenal, and the biggest difference, and I've alluded to it many times online and even on articles and other podcasts as well, where if you look at Arsenal and their press, last season Arsenal's press was fantastic. It was man-to-man, it was immediate, it was high energy. And again, statistically, it was us and Man City in a league of our own in terms of how effective we were utilising that aggressive mindset. And I felt the injuries to Tomiyasu and William Saliba were massive, of course, but I also felt that our press was dropping off even when Saliba was still in the team before he sustained his injury. Now, again, we were still obtaining the desired results and we were building a lot of momentum, but it felt like we were going to burn out. Whereas this season, if you look at the way that we're pressing, and it's not as aggressive from the start, it's a little bit more zonal before certain triggers are applied, in which we increase the intensity and then go man to man. And it's just been Arsenal, I think, conserving more energy whilst achieving the same effectiveness, which is very key. That if we're just as effective as last season, during that 19 game period in which we accumulated 50 points, but we're conserving more energy, that's going to benefit us in the long term, and it's going to benefit us in terms of handling fixture congestion, which also will come down to how Mikel utilises the squad and how he manages it. But I do think that we saw teething issues at the start of the season, all the way till pre-Dubai, and then post-Dubai, you've started to see Arsenal really click into gear. All the metrics, all the numbers, everything Arsenal topping, and we are where we are for a reason. I think that's what's exciting, and the difference is that we're coming. Players who have been injured, they're going to be coming back, and we can have a really good go now from now to the end of the season, both in the Premier League and Champions League. So I do think that there are similarities with us and Man City, but time will tell, as usual. We'll have to see.
It will indeed, yeah. And do you feel like some of those little, things that now just seem to have been righted, and Arsenal just looking a lot more comfortable, a lot more balanced, a lot more just just working much better as a team? Do you feel like that's also down to finding answers for things that Mikel couldn't really find answers for before? So like the midfield combination, he was trying different things with Rice as a 6 and then Havertz and Odegaard. He was trying different people in the centre forward role, Jesus, Trossard. Do you feel like maybe he went into the season thinking Thomas Partey and Rice will be my midfield, Gabriel Jesus will play up front, and then maybe it caught him out a little bit when he wasn't too sure, he had to try a few different things? But now with Jorginho and Rice working really well in the midfield and Kai Havertz up front, which I've got to give you your plaudits, Rohan. You were one of the first people that ever said Kai Havertz should work up front. And you were really behind it. So just, credit to Rohan for that one. But do you feel like, finding answers to those questions that before he wasn't too sure about, do you feel like those are also another contribution to why Arsenal have been a lot better in the second half of the season?
Yeah, I think if you look at Arsenal under Arteta, like last season, you knew the 11 that we were going to play if everyone was available, and it would be rinsed out every single week, which is really good in terms of establishing continuity, because if you can have players playing with each other consistently, then that's going to breed confidence. It's going to breed partnerships spreading across the entire pitch. Chemistry levels are going to be higher, and all in all, it's going to be a lot more sustainable. The disadvantage of that is if you do start to pick up injuries to certain players, the guys who are coming in won't be as warm, they won't be as confident, and then you can start to see teething issues occur. Whereas actually this season, if you go from the start of our first game against FC Nuremberg in Germany all the way to, I think it was Forest away from home, we had made a change in our lineup in every single game, at least one change. So that, I think, brought teething issues as well, because we're not establishing that level of continuity. But at the same time, it is allowing us to utilize more of our squad and ensuring players are being used and rotated. But now you've seen post Bayern onwards, we've really started to play pretty much the same team, which again has its advantages because it's establishing continuity, it's allowing players to play with each other, and partnerships are growing. But also, I think what Mikel's done well is that he is being a lot more proactive with his subs, taking players off, and it obviously helps. Winning games 5-0, 6-0, etc. You can take players off like Saka, give them a breather, allow others to come in. So I think that obviously helps us as well. And just generally, yeah, I think it's just good to see how we've altered as the season has gone by in terms of how we've selected the team. And obviously Kai Havertz up front. I've always felt that should have been the project to invest in, and I think the Community Shield performance, showed us what he's capable of. Everything about him in that game was really good. It was just that lack of conviction in his final action. He had 2 really good opportunities in which he should have taken at least one. And going into tomorrow as well, I don't know if you saw it again. It's the same Sky Sports interview from Arteta where he alludes to how when you have someone who can stretch the last line centrally, it becomes so much easier to play. Whereas last season, if you look at Man City, at the Etihad, they pressed man-to-man, they squeezed us really high. And there was no outball in the middle of the pitch because all our central operators are ball to feet. They like to receive the ball, drop deep, and then circulate. So from Manchester City's point of view, no one centrally is going to threaten them in behind. So they can keep squeezing, And now you add Kai Havertz into the fold, who makes those runs in behind. It creates a disconnect. It allows you to compete for second balls, and it allows you to gain momentum and establish territory in their half, in their third. So I think that is so key tomorrow. And I do think that with Kai Havertz playing up front, he will generate at least one good situation in the final third. The question is if he takes it. And that's what we could be looking back on and thinking, oh, what a moment, or oh no. But he will generate one big chance. I know it. I'm sure of it. That he's just awkward to play against.
Absolutely, yeah. Man, I'm so excited for this game. Really, really looking forward to after, just before we come to the end of this show, what we're going to do is we're going to do our Arsenal 11 for the game. So stick around for that, people. 250 people watching at the moment across X and YouTube. Please do follow, subscribe. Really appreciate any support, and comment how you think the game's going to go as well. Please do make sure to get involved. We'll read out some of those messages, have your say on the channel, please do. The second half has started with Brentford and Manchester United. It's still 0-0. We're all cheering here for a Brentford win. I'm sure someone else that will be cheering for a Brentford win is our guest, a Manchester City fan, DK, who we welcome to the channel for the first time. DK, welcome. How are you?
What's up, boys? I'm good. Thanks for having me.
Not at all. It's great to have you here. Big game tomorrow, and Matt and Rohan, please do feel free to jump in with any questions for DK if you do have them. As Brentford again, have some big chances against Manchester United. Are you all for the Manchester United slander, DK? I'm sure you are.
Yeah. I won't do it too publicly, just so they don't come for my throat. But internally, I just know I'm going a little crazy in my head too.
No, fair enough. Tell us, DK, how are you feeling ahead of tomorrow's game? You confident?
That's a loaded question, to be completely honest. I think Arsenal is good. I think if depending on who you ask on Twitter or social media, they might be more boisterous, but I'm not naive enough to look at Arsenal and see how you guys have been playing and how you've grown over the past couple of years to get to this point to think that it's going to be a cakewalk. I think that the previous fixture earlier this year showed that not only has your team grown, but you're more than capable of going toe to toe with us. Like the kids aren't kids anymore. You know what I mean? I see some similarities in the way that Arsenal kind of is now with how City kind of was when Pep first came and Arteta was still at City. The players were young; they needed time to gel, they needed time to kind of build a culture, and I think that the culture that Arteta has built, not to go too much on tangent, but I think that he's built something substantial, something sustainable, and I think that City this year it hasn't, not to say that we've been bad, but some of the things that made us so great, especially last season, that like maybe to put it in simple terms, like that magic for me hasn't really been there. And in the key moments where I feel like City kind of pulled something out of the blue, no pun intended, I'm not sure if I have the confidence that they'll do that this season. A lot of City fans might not be happy about me saying that, but I want to be realistic and but am I confident? Yeah, it's City. I'm going to be confident. I'd also be disingenuous if I said that I'm not confident every time City plays, especially at home, especially at the Etihad against Arsenal. I know I was watching the show before I tuned in. I know Maddie was mentioning the home unbeaten record, 38 wins since or 38 unbeaten since November 2022. You look at any team in Europe, they say that that's their home record. Any football fan, regardless of who you support, you'll be like, that's pretty good. So confident, but aware that it's not going to be easy. And I would be thrilled if we walk away with 3 points. Let's just leave it at that. Yeah.
And how much of a miss do you think, not having the likes of John Stones and Carl Walker is going to be? Or, so we're led to believe that they're not going to be available for this game. Guardiola might pull something out and just, as the team news comes out, the stadium goes dark and then, just dramatic music and Walker and Stones walk out to warm out. But presuming that, he's not lying, how much of a miss do you think it will be for City not having John Stones and Carl Walker?
I'll do it, but one by one. Kyle Walker is Kyle Walker. It's like everybody knows he's fast, he's strong. She shuts offensive wingers down pretty regularly. But again, Kyle Walker, like the rest of the City team, this season hasn't necessarily looked to be who they've kind of proven to be. I think that Kyle is not going to be too much of a miss because I have so much confidence in Akanji. Um, I think Akanji is a special player. I think he doesn't necessarily do anything to the elite level. Like he may not be as smooth or silky on the ball as John Stones. He may not be as fast as Kyle Walker, but Akanji is kind of that, no pun intended, that Swiss Army knife that comes in at an amazing price. I think it was like 15 million or so. That can play left back, he can play right back, he can play center back. He's ambipedal, he can play with both feet. And when John has been injured, he's also stepped into the defensive midfield role as Roach's partner on time to time. Extremely underrated player. So in that sense, if Kyle isn't there and Akanji kind of takes that spot, then I'm okay with it. I think most City fans would be too. In terms of Stones, that's a different animal. John Stones is a unicorn. This guy is, I mean, ask any City fan and they will gush about this guy. He's a special player. I'm not sure how you replace someone like that. I don't think you can. I think you do your best because I don't think there's any player or defender, if you want to call him a defender, in world football that can play the way he does at the level he does. There are some that can to a certain degree, but John is he's a unicorn, and I think there's a reason why Pep is in love with the guy. It's like him, Bernardo. It's like there's a couple of guys that Pep really, really, really loves. So I'm more worried about John not being there. But Kyle not being there, I think we can make do with it, and not to take anything away from Manu, who's incredible.
Yeah, no, we're really looking forward to the game tomorrow. You mentioned there, DK, about how maybe some of the stuff hasn't quite been there with City this season. Those magical moments. What do you put that down to? Is there a particular reason, a particular player? I know Ilkay Gundogan was a big loss for you guys in the summer, but is there tell me a little bit about why you don't think those things have been there.
Football is weird, guys. I'm not a tactico. I'm not really I don't really dive into the analysis to that degree. Like I'll be completely honest, and maybe some people will say, he's American, he doesn't know football, but I've been watching football for over 20 years, and there's something I think as sports fans, you can feel when something special is building, when something special is happening. And last season, like there was something about City. I'll pull up tweets. I have receipts on myself earlier in the season where I was like, "Oh, we're terrible." I'll be happy if we just get Champions League football. But at some point, something clicked, and I felt like we were literally unbeatable, and it proved to be we actually were. This season, I have a feeling that it's a combination of a lot of things. Something like you can't necessarily expect to let someone like Iltika Gundogan, Laporte, Riyad Mahrez all leave in the same season, and then not to throw our board under the bus, but miss on all of their 1A targets and go after slightly inferior replacements. And thanks to Pep, like we're in the mix of everything. I think that's down to Pep being Pep. The money helps, obviously, but let's be real here. It's like the players that left versus the players that came in. It's not the same. And also, I think human nature, when you reach the top, the only way you can go is generally a little lower. Um, I think it's disingenuous for us to actually think that we're gonna, go back to back trebles. I know some City fans are talking about it, and that would be amazing. Don't get me wrong, but the odds, like, if I was a betting man, and I really believed in it that much, I would put some money down on that if I really believed it. But for me personally, I don't. I honestly don't think that replacing that leadership, that ability, that clutch magic that those players brought. And also the fact that our team hasn't really been healthy this season. Kevin De Bruyne has been injured for most of the season. John Stones is on and off the treatment table. Holland was hurt for a while. It's a combination of a lot of things, and I think that we're only getting into that point of the season where usually Pep starts to settle on a lineup, and the form starts to come into play. But I still feel like maybe we're not gelling the way that we would be at this point in previous seasons, and that's a major concern.
Sure, boys. Matt, Rohan, got any questions for DK on City this season?
Yeah, I think so. So with Walker and Stones, assuming that they are out, do you think with Walker and what he offers in the final third and how he gets forward, missing that and having someone like Akanji, I agree with you. I think Akanji to you is very similar to how Tomiyasu is for us in terms of that Swiss Army knife and how versatile he is and his ability to operate in different roles. It's just a shame, obviously, with his availability. But do you think with a Kanji there, granted, perhaps you will maintain that security defensively, but you'll miss that threat going forward, especially. I think someone like I'm assuming it'll be Bernardo starting right wing or Foden starting right wing.
It's a good question. It's a good question. Right wing, our wingers are like it's a very controversial topic in the City fan base, because so many people want Phil to start in the middle, but then like there's a little bit of concern when it comes to starting Phil and KDB in the middle together. Is that too much risk? Rodri's only weakness is probably playing as a lone six. He doesn't necessarily have the athleticism to play there by himself. He can do it, don't get me wrong, but against a team like Arsenal who have the quality that you do and the speed that you do and the clinicalness that you do, that's a big risk, So for me personally, I would put Kovacic in the middle or put Bernardo in the middle. But then at that point, it's like, who do you put on the right wing? And it's like, Kyle Walker's role going forward and hugging that high right is literally just to be a distraction. I don't necessarily think that he offers much as an offensive threat. If anything, he's a good distraction and he opens up space for our midfielders to drive forward and carry the ball forward. But I'm not sure if that's the move in this game. It's a very specific role that he can fulfill against specific opposition. But going against Arsenal, it's like, Akanji, in my opinion, I think he's a better progressive passer. I also think that he sees the field better. But the problem is like that opens up questions for other positions on the field. And like, that's where I'm kind of lost as a fact. I just don't really know, like, how do you get the best out of every player in every position? And, one of Pep's strengths is that he coaches his players to be extremely versatile in different positions. But then in certain scenarios where we need specialists, a generalist might not necessarily cut it, And I feel like we're looking at Kyle's role in that high flying kind of almost winger position. He's like a specialist in that sense, but I don't know if that's the right move here. So that's why like Akanji being able to go forward, play those passes, being a little bit more solid on the ball. I almost kind of prefer it. And I hesitate to say that, but you know, I think you guys can tell. It's like I'm very confident in Akanji. I think he brings a lot to the table in general.
I think it's interesting as well. You mentioned Akanji because I was just having a look as well. I remember the Emirates game last season. I felt that we could get at City at points. As Rohan said earlier, we created some good opportunities, but then I think it was Pep brought on Akanji, and it kind of just felt like we had that side completely locked down. I think he went with the Bernardo left back experiment, and when he brought on Akanji, it's not that I hadn't watched Akanji loads, but I was almost like, wow, he's really done a job here and completely locked down. So interesting there. But on the topic of the defense, I just wanted to ask you, DK. Why do you think it is that City have been so vulnerable in transitions? I remember seeing that Chelsea game a few weeks ago. There was so many gaps to exploit for Chelsea. In general, City, I kind of said that last season City have felt like a bit of an anomaly compared to other City sides where they've, of course, were really, really ruthless and scored some brilliant goals and controlled games. But defensively, they were just sensational. Whereas this season, City feels more like past City sides where there's been, a lot of gaps and very exploitable in transition. So would you attribute that to, of course, Gundogan going and Stones being out a lot of the time? But what would you attribute that to?
I think it's in a simple sense. I would honestly just boil it down to a lack of continuity. I it's kind of strange to say like, yeah, Gundogan leaving is going to hurt our defense, but like it's not just our defense that has been bad. If Haaland scores these chances that he's been missing, like it would be a completely different conversation. It's like City play as such a unit, and a lot of fans will kind of throw Pep under the bus and say that these players that play with such freedom, these offensive players, they go to City and they become robots, right? It's like, it's not that they become robots. It's just Pep puts them in a system that values the system over everything else. But the problem is when one part of that system is a little bit faulty, the entire system falls apart. And that's kind of what we're experiencing with Pep's system this season, whether it's Haaland being out and Julian Alvarez fitting in there, or KDB, being out and Julian Alvarez fitting in there. It's like we're trying to get players to do things that they aren't the best at doing. They can get by, and individual quality will pull us out of matches, like literally, by the string of our hairs at some point. But that's what sets City apart. It wasn't like such a dramatic, like, oh my God, such a struggle to get a point here and there. It's like it was such resounding victories when we needed it. And this year, it's either we like crawl across the finish line, or we just can't finish our chances. But to answer your question bluntly, I don't think that we have been fit. I don't think there's that continuity in that back line, and I also think that. We're just maybe you want to call it a hangover. Maybe I feel like there is a sense of that, and I hope that as a fan, hangovers only last so long, and hopefully by tomorrow they click out of it and it's time to go.
I think it is what makes City so dangerous is that inevitability, isn't it? With a De Bruyne, of a Haaland. I think that's what we have to be wary of. For Arsenal's point of view, we've had games where we've played really well against City, but we've not been able to get over the line because we've not had that inevitability, and that's what. And Arteta said it in one of his recent interviews as well. He says that to win the big titles, you need the players who are just pretty much clutch when there's adversity, clutch when it's actually crunch time, and when it really matters. And that's what's separated City from the rest of many times where they've played incredible football. For me, this Pep Guardiola era in the Premier League is the best the Premier League's ever seen in terms of quality and dominance. But there's a lot of games, and I think you would perhaps agree as well, in which City haven't been at their best, but they have that inevitability, and that's something that we'll have to be wary of tomorrow. We could have the best game, and we could still lose.
Yeah. Look, like I said, man, I'm not I'm not going to sit here and say like, oh, we're going to go in and blow Arsenal out of the water. You guys are good. You guys are really good, and you have players that can hurt us. I'm a huge Declan Rice fan. When I heard that City and Arsenal were going head to head to Declan Rice, I was like, pay them 250. I'm kidding. Don't pay the guy 250 million. But if you're to say, we paid 100 million, it's like, is he worth every single penny? Absolutely. You would pay that 2 times over for him at this point, and we'd say the same about every single one of our players. This is what makes the Premier League so great. It really is. It's like we have a serious title race this season, and the fact that Arteta, did what he had to do to bring in the right players, and he's going toe to toe with Pep and Klopp, who are two of the greatest Premier League managers of all time. It's very impressive, and it's not luck. Like that inevitability you were just mentioning, Rohan. It's like there is that sense with Arsenal this season, and that's being completely honest. Where it's like I watch you guys, and if you guys are tired or not winning going into like the 80th minute, I'm kind of just like I'll place a parlay and like let's see what happens. Hopefully that doesn't come to bite us. There's a lot of like kind of narratives at stake, Rodri's unbeaten record, all of that, and like part of me is like has a lot of respect for Arteta because he was part of the City setup, and he did great for us too. And as if I'm being like a neutral fan, removing City completely out of the picture, I would love for Arteta to get a Premier League title. That's amazing. I don't want it to be at our sake. I think that's fair. I think that's very fair.
No, yeah, 100%. DK, it's been great to get your insight on the show tonight. We do have to ask you for a score prediction, though. I'm going to have to put you on the spot. Ask you for a score prediction and how you think the game will go tomorrow. But whilst you decide what that score prediction is going to be, I'm just going to let people know this Brentford Man United game is ridiculous because Brentford have now had 22 shots, 3 on target. Ivan Toney, the latest one to send one over, a decent chance again. They've had a lot of chances, and I can sense a Manchester United goal.
You just
coming
know it's happening. You just know.
Bet your house on a Scott McTominay bullet header.
Yeah.
Scott
Yeah.
I'm looking forward to that Ten Hag press conference afterwards. I really want to know what he says.
We should have been.
I'll tell you what he said
against Arsenal.
I'll tell you what he said. Yeah, we should have had a penalty against Arsenal, and the offside wasn't offside. He says it every press conference. Weird guy.
Yeah.
DK, the time has come. Thank you very much for being on the stream today. But we would like to know, please, how you see the game going tomorrow, and that all important score prediction, please.
Oh man, this is tough. I'm gonna be a fan here, and I think City pull out the win. I honestly think it's going to be pretty cagey. I don't think it's going to be high scoring at all. I would say something along the lines of like a 2-1. I think Haaland has a day, and I think KDB has a day. KDB loves the game against Arsenal. I know you guys know that.
Of course, he has a day against us.
Yeah, I know you guys have a little fear inside about that, and he's been able to rest recently, which I think is so important because he's getting a little older. But something about Arsenal, man, it brings a different animal out of Kev. And I also think that as amazing and as much of compliments I've put on Arteta, I feel like Pep still has his number. And when it boils down to it, he's going to have something up his sleeve for him. Kind of like the student that hasn't necessarily surpassed the master yet, but he's getting there, which is cool. Please, nobody come at me for this.
No. So you're saying you reckon a 2-1 DK?
2-1. I'll say 2-1 City.
2-1.
Just to ask as well, what do you think will be the key battles in the game? What do you think the game will be won or lost from a City or an Arsenal perspective?
I think obviously Rodri and Rice is one to watch. I also think a very underrated one is Haaland against your defense. I think your defense has been very, very good this season. I think Gabriel has been, in my opinion, probably your best defender. I love Saliba, but I think Gabriel has been really, really good. I think Kiwior is also very good too. He's shown that he I honestly didn't really know much about him until like 2 seasons ago, and I was like, yeah, this guy's pretty good. I also think one underrated thing to watch is who starts at left wing for City. I love Jack Grealish. I think that he's perfect for the way we play. But Doku offers something completely different. And then whether it's Phil, it's like the dynamics of that left hand side change so much. So that would probably be the order that I will be watching or kind of analyzing, I guess. Rodri versus Rice, Haaland versus your defense, and that kind of left wing position for City. If those three things work out well, usually when Jack Grealish plays well, we win. People can say all they want about his goals and assists and whatnot, but there's a reason why we want to trouble with him as our kind of undroppable winger on that side. Like he's just perfect for us. So yeah, those three.
Nice one. Well, I think the left wing spot as well for Arsenal is a very interesting topic of conversation. We will carry on with that and some more Arsenal stuff. But DK, thank you so much for your time. Really appreciate you jumping on the pod. Where can people follow you? What have you got coming up if people want to, check out any of your content or stuff like that?
Yeah, you guys can follow me on Shake MCI on Twitter. City fans, Arsenal fans, all fans welcome. I'm pretty friendly, But it was wonderful being on here. Thank you so much for your time. Thank you for having me, and best of luck tomorrow, boys. All right.
We'll look forward to it, DK. Have a good one, and please do make sure you follow DK if you are a supporter of Man City or you want to. Cheers, DK. Take care.
Awesome.
Great to have him on. DK there. Brilliant to get his insight on Manchester City. We've got some score predictions in already. Santi Talks Arsenal reckons City 1, Arsenal 1. I think it's interesting, Rohan, because obviously Clive, who went on the overlap, just kind of said, it's important not to lose this game. And I think Clive's brilliant, and I thought he represented Arsenal really well on that fan panel. And it was great to see, I think quite refreshing to see Clive on there give his opinions. But how important is it for Arsenal just to not lose this game as Brentford just try and score an overhead kick and it goes over the bar?
Elite commentary from you, as per. I think, as I alluded to earlier, it is a game which you don't lose. But I look at it and I think this is a golden opportunity to go there and win, especially without Walker and Stones. Now, I hear what he was saying in terms of he sees the drop off from Walker to Akanji not being as severe for this type of game and matchup, and I think that's a fair point. But not having John Stones, that is so big for them, because if you look at the way that we played against them in the Community Shield in particular, I always look at the Community Shield game more than the Emirates game because Rodri played in the Community Shield. Rodri didn't play at the Emirates, so you have to try and look at it in which City are at closest to their strongest, and we tried to create a plan to ensure John Stones doesn't get on the ball. So if you're creating a plan to not allow someone on the ball, how dangerous he is, and to not have John Stones, that's so big for us. And if you told me you get a point now, I wouldn't take it. I honestly wouldn't take it. I think this is such a good opportunity to go there and make a statement. And
we have a goal.
Brentford?
Ivan Toney has scored for Brentford. Oh, it's offside. Oh, no. The referee's put his flag up.
Oh, no.
Maybe not. VAR.
Oh,
VAR,
no.
VAR.
We'll keep you updated with that. Oh, no.
What an intriguing finish that was.
Yeah.
Oh,
it's just,
I feel so left out. I've not even got it on.
Just coming through.
Got on the phone.
And I think, Ivan Toney's offside. It's going to be given as offside. That is, oh, man. And he's injured himself in the process. And Buemo crossed it in, and Toney kind of lunges for it and hits it with his knee, and it goes in, but he's kind of injured himself in the process, and it looks like it's going to be given as offside. But I do apologise, Rohan, before I rudely interrupted you.
Did
Please
not
carry
rudely
on.
interrupt me. It was very necessary. It was necessary.
carry on, please, sir.
No, but that was it, really. I think I wouldn't take a draw now. I want the win. I really want the win. I think this is a great opportunity. It's been too long. It's been too long since we've gone there.
Yeah. At the Etihad as well, yeah. It's man, it's a huge one. The stakes are so high.
Stressed out now. This game.
Yeah. No, don't stress, Rohan. We'll keep you up to date. Let's do our Arsenal team because I think it's important to talk about this. I've changed my team, I think, 3 times already today, just from kind of having certain feelings and emotions, which are at some points I think stupid, as Ivan Toney's goal is confirmed as offside. But I mean, let's go through the team. I mean, of course, David Raya. I mean, let's start off then. So David Raya in goal. Obviously, no debates there. Rohan, you were very. You highlighted how important that David Raya playing well is. Will have an impact on the game.
Yeah. I think if you look at key matchups, key individuals, obviously everyone has to be on point for us to achieve the result that we want. But I think when you look at this game, and I agree with what DK alluded to, I don't think there's going to be many chances. In fact, I think for the neutral, it's going to be really boring, just like it was in the Community Shield, just like it was at the Emirates. For us, it's nerve-wracking, but from a neutral, it's not like a Liverpool-Man City in which the style allows for it to be a really good game because of how different the two teams are in terms of how they like to play in certain parts. But I think David Raya is not going to have much to do, but when he is called into action, he's going to have to be alert. And that's something I think when you go and look at the Porto game in terms of not having much to do, but had to make a couple of key saves, a really important claim from a corner as well. He did it superbly. And I think it's going to be very similar against City, although I think the chances will be bigger and will be much more difficult, but he will have to stand up tall there. But I think on the ball, he's going to be so important because City, I think they'll press us really hard. They'll press man to man. And the goalkeeper is the free man in those scenarios. So he has to be excellent both in terms of decision-making and execution. And actually, if you go back to the game at the Emirates in which we played them, he had a poor first half in which a lot of the fans were getting on his back as well. But his second half was really good. So, yeah, he's going to be very important.
I remember that game as well. I remember just after he did a really interesting interview when he was on national team duty, because I think there was an international break just after, but he was basically saying about how he was getting all that stick from fans, but he was told to hold the ball and wait for City to flinch almost. So there's you can see where the free man is for him to pass to, because he was saying that he is the free man, that's got the ball. He's that 11th player that can dictate play when he's so good with his passing. 75th minute in the Brentford United game. Do we have any kind of disagreements with the back four of Ben White, Gabriel, Saliba, Kivior?
Oh, I'm torn on this one.
Where are you torn, Rohan? Go on.
I'm torn on left back. I'm really torn on it. I put a tweet out and I said, do you go with the informed player? Let's say Tomiyasu is fully fit, ready. He's available and he is ready. He was on the bench against Porto in the Champions League. He's had the behind closed doors game against QPR as well. He's ready, right? Do you go with the guy who's informed? Do you ensure that continuity remains within the team and go with a Kivior? Or do you go with a specialist who, Mikel Arteta, we saw it at the Emirates against Man City last time out. Ben White was on form. He brought Tomiyasu in as a specialist in that game. Granted, it didn't work, but he's done it against Liverpool as well, against Salah. He is a specialist in terms of 1v1 defending out wide and locking off wingers. Do you go with that for this specific game? Or is it too early? Is it too much of a big game in which this guy has not played for Arsenal since Wolves at home, which was back in December? So I'm torn. I'm honestly torn on that one. But I think there's a debate there.
I think you go with Kivior personally, just because of obviously completely respect your opinion on that, but I just think that Tomiyasu, of course, with the length that he's been out for,
that's fair.
And international duty, not really playing at all. I don't know, man. I just feel like Kivior with that match sharpness will just.
I think even if you talk about merit as well, I think. You look at that Porto game, that home game.
He was so good in that Porto game.
I don't think many players really shone. He was one of the few players who took the occasion and thrived in it. And I think if you bench a player like that, who's been nothing short of brilliant since he's come into the side, it almost promotes a bit of an unfair thing to be like, okay, you've been brilliant, but you're coming in. Obviously, we have Luton after, and
and Bremo hits the crossbar.
Oh.
It's like a jump scare.
Sorry.
Yeah, I hear that. I hear that, Matt, as well. It's like you're not establishing a meritocratic environment. Doing that, taking someone who's been in such form. And the Porto point's really good because there were a few players who actually showed a level of cleanness on the ball. Saliba and Gabriel didn't show that. Kivior actually showed that. And it would be really unfair for him to be taken out. But I don't know.
It's tough as well, though,
Yeah.
because I don't think you can go wrong with it. Because I think, hypothetically, if Tomiyasu starts, then Kivior can play against Luton. And then Kivior could... I think Tomiyasu, if he starts against City, he'll start against Bayern. Maybe in the home game, Kivior plays, actually. And then the away one, Tomiyasu plays. As I think the home one will be less pragmatic than the away one from us. But yes, it is a tough one. Dan, are you sold then on Kivior? Because I'm also quite mixed, but I also feel like not going with Kivior feels a bit tight with how.
Yeah, no, I
good
know what you mean. Yeah, no, I think you go with Kivior personally. I think I think Tomiyasu would come in if he was fit. I mean, I'm sure he is fit, but if he had that kind of credit matches in the bank from what he played previously. But I think for the back four for this one, you go for Kivior. If we go for that one, then for our starting 11 for this game so far. So moving into midfield combinations, Arteta's kind of gone with this combination, I think, in big games this season, and that's Jorginho and Declan Rice. When it does come down to the big games, this is the midfield kind of pairing that he's gone for. Is what are your opinions on that, Matt?
I think Porto is the only game this season which has kind of made me be a bit scared about playing that. Not that I disagree with it at all, by the way, because I'm honestly, I'm a massive advocate for Jorginho. I really appreciate what he's done. I really appreciate what he offers. And I think I think the notion he got after Spurs was really unfair. He got brought into a game which just didn't suit him at all. A game which was pretty end-to-end, quite like a basketball game, and he simply does not have the legs, which Rice did. And, people kind of jump to that moment as the reason to get rid or never see him again or anything like that. But the fact of the matter for me is whenever he's played alongside someone else, whether that be Granit Xhaka or Declan Rice, he's been nothing short of brilliant. You look at Newcastle away last season. You look at City when he stepped up to the plate when Partey pulled out at home last season. You look at countless other examples. And Porto was the one where I think it was their tactics which really stretched us and made his weaknesses be shown, which does concern me to an extent. With seeing that, I think if that Porto game hadn't happened, I don't think there'd even be a doubt in my mind, because I think Jorginho, once again, on merit, he fully deserves to play. He's played all the big games and been brilliant for us. And obviously, we know he has his vulnerabilities of mobility and not being the quickest, but that doesn't get shown at all because of how good the system is. And that's a manager's job to play a player to cater towards their qualities. So it's very hard to say, because Partey, when he's come on, definitely doesn't deserve to be starting a game of this magnitude. Obviously, that's a very small sample size. But, talking of a merit perspective, he doesn't exactly deserve to be starting in a game of this caliber, particularly with what Jorginho's, done. So I would not be at all angry with seeing either. And, Jorginho Rice is probably the most likely, but it wouldn't surprise me if he went for a Partey Rice dynamic like the Community Shield because of, the legs he offers. And if City tried to replicate what Porto did, because I'm sure, that's one of the games they would have been looking at, or Fulham or Chelsea, of games which has caused us big problems. And they'll be looking at how they can emulate that. Aside, as DK alluded to, that Pep's always got something up his sleeve. So I'm sure there will be something. So that is just something to be wary of in terms of the Jorginho Rice dynamic, which has been so reliable for us. But I'd be intrigued to hear what you guys think.
Yeah, I think Thomas Partey, I would think he'll have a role to play in the game, but I don't know if he would start, just again based off of a lack of kind of significant minutes. I'm sure they've had plenty of time on the training ground to work on these kind of things ahead of this game with the international break. And I just think Jorginho would be the one that Arteta would go for. Rohan, do you feel the same, or do you think that Thomas Partey could come in, or do you even think that he might go for Kai Havertz and Martin Odegaard in kind of dual eights, so to speak, and Declan Rice in the six?
Yeah, it's another difficult one, very similar to the left back spot for me as well, in terms of, do you go with the guy who allows you to be more flexible in Thomas Partey if he's fully fit, available and ready, or do you go with continuity again that has given us so much and has given us the platform that we are in right now to have a strong end to the season. And I think if Jorginho does play, I think City will try and target that. I think that when you look at weaknesses that Arsenal have, looking at someone like Jorginho off the ball is something they believe they could get Kevin De Bruyne to stick on him and to make runs in behind. And that's something that I think we will adapt to anyway if he starts. But yeah, in my ideal world, it would have been that Community Shield midfield, Partey, Rice, and Odegaard. But as what Matt mentioned as well, it feels like with Thomas Partey, when he comes back from an injury, he needs a few games before he's actually back up to speed. Like Thomas Partey, when he's not fully fit, some of the decision making, some of the passes, it's just an eyesore, honestly. But yeah, I think I'd probably edge it towards Jorginho, given what I've seen from Partey. But I would not be surprised if you see Partey start, because he has had a bit of time, as you allude to, in the training ground to work on things. He played in the game behind closed door against QPR, and yeah, I'm torn. I'm torn on that one again. There's two spots for me. If everyone's available, there's two spots that I'm torn on. It's left back and it's DM, because Rice will be as that number 8.
And it's ironic as well, the exact same reasoning is the case for both of them. Like, do you go with the players who deserve to be playing? And, as you obviously, said that Pep will look to obviously find areas to exploit, and he would have been looking particularly at that Porto game, I think, extensively, and looking obviously what they did with making the wide centre backs and really stretching us. And, even though it could be quite a cagey game, as you said, be looking to have De Bruyne run off him. But it is also worth mentioning Jorginho has played in some very high octane games, obviously St James's Park last season, Manchester City this season and last season. So that's also quite key. This isn't someone who's not done it in that regard. So it'll be interesting to see what we do go with, or what Arteta goes with.
I think we'll go for in our particular 11. I think we'll go for Jorginho and Rice just for the sake of this. But I do think the upside of Thomas Partey is much more beneficial to Arsenal than the upside of Jorginho. But that's no disrespect on Jorginho at all, because he's been more available. So just as well, a side comment as well. If this game is Ivan Toney's old audition to sign for Arsenal, it's not going well at all. It's been awful. He's been very poor. There was a moment as well when he was running through on goal and he cut back again. It just looks like he's almost lacking confidence at the moment. But regardless, there we go. So we've gone so far for David Raya, Ben White, Saliba Gabriel partnership at centre back, Kivior at left back, Jorginho and Declan Rice. Martin Odegaard, captain. There's no way that he doesn't start this game. Right hand side, Bukayo Saka. I'd imagine he'd be fit for this game. I'd be very surprised if he wasn't. Left hand side has come up for plenty of debate. By the way, we've got over 300 people tuned into the stream still, so shout out to all 300 of you legends at the moment. Please do comment in the Twitter box, in the YouTube box, what 11 you'd go for, and if you feel like we're making any horrendous mistakes, then fire them away, and we'll hold us accountable. Go for it. But please do subscribe. Please do drop us a follow if you can. But moving into that 11, the left-hand side has caused so much debate, I think, so far today. I started off the day thinking, Reece Nelson, why not? Something like that could happen, but I just don't think it's realistic that he goes in there at all. As much as, I'm a fan of Reece Nelson, Emil Smith-Rowe. Smith-Rowe's not played on the left for over a year, more than a year in this Arsenal side. So I think I've just come to the decision personally that it will probably be Leandro Trossard. And I think, it's a sensible decision, because despite not necessarily being the best on the left-hand side, I think he can be a lot more influential in the central striker role sometimes. And I don't think the left is necessarily his best position. He can be incredibly clutch, like you say, Rohan.
Yeah, that's
on the left-hand side. He's very clinical. And in a game where it might be fine margins, something like that could be something that Arsenal could need.
Yeah, I think so. So we're assuming Martinelli's not ready. It's between Jesus and Trossard. So do you go with the guy who stylistically doesn't suit that role as good as the other in terms of touchline and maximizing his skill set? That doesn't maximize Trossard's skill set, and he can be frustrating there. as he was against Porto. But what we also saw against Porto is that those moments that come your way, there aren't many in the squad that you'd want over Trossard. You know, Martinelli and Trossard for me are our best finishers. And Trossard has that clutch gene. And when you talk about the magnitude of this game, you talk about how close it will be tactically. You need those guys who give you that inevitability that I've mentioned before. And Bukayo Saka is giving Arsenal that. You know, 29 goals and assists over the course of the season with a potential of 14 or 15 more games if we go all the way towards the end of the Champions League as well. That's phenomenal. And that is a clear illustration of a guy who is inevitable. But then do you go with someone like Jesus, who stylistically would suit the wing role a little bit better and gives you greater work out of possession in terms of the press. He'll do better than Trossard in that aspect, but he's nowhere near as efficient. So I'm torn on this one. I did go for Jesus personally.
Okay.
Yeah, because of the work off the ball. And I think that's so important in this game. It's not to say Trossard isn't to the standard there, but when you're comparing the two, Gabriel Jesus is fantastic.
Do you think as well it might have an impact of, you know, Jesus, you know, the team Arsenal were playing, Manchester City, going out to prove a point? Do you think that could
be as well? Yeah. It could give you extra motivation as a player. I know if I was a player, you'd want to be able to. You'd have extra motivation against the team that you played previously, especially in the way that you were sold. You know, quite clearly it becoming public in terms of him not being suitable. He was not. They didn't need it. You know, and they moved the project moved past the Gabriel Jesus. So that is for you to try and prove a point to say that you made a mistake. You know, and that could add extra motivation. But it's tough because Trossard is so clutch. He's so clutch.
Yeah, for sure. Do you know? I don't mind the Gabriel Jesus shout. I think we could include him in our 11 here, Matt. Unless you're gonna, you know, absolutely disagree with both of us. What's your thoughts, Matt?
To be honest, I think, you know, you've also got the sample size of the City home game. I think he played off the right, not off the left. But he was probably our best player in that game, or our second best behind Jorginho, I think, if I remember correctly. But yeah, like, I think Jesus offers a dynamic, as you said. You know, he's way more suited to playing on the wing. I think him as a winger is quite an underrated prospect in itself. You know, I think he should have played more on the wing generally at Arsenal. I don't think, you know, I would have liked to see Martinelli play down the middle more and Jesus drift even more down to the left-hand side. So it's a bit of a difficult one, you know, obviously with Leandro Trossard, the no-brainer other guy. As you mentioned, Reece, I don't think we do anything like that. That's quite a big risk in a game like this. And same for Emil Smith-Rowe, who's also not played off the left in however long. And for me, it stems down to Trossard's effectiveness off the bench. I'm not a big fan of Trossard when he starts games a lot of the time. I don't look at Trossard's contributions and Trossard's general, like best games in an Arsenal shirt and think they come when he starts. I think they come when he comes off the bench, like that Chelsea game. Like, to be fair, I think he scored the goal against Brentford last season. He scored the goal against Porto this season, but wasn't
Everton.
great.
Oh, well, that was when he started. Yeah,
when he did start. But I think generally speaking, he's such an impact player, and I think he's the type of player where his technical level is brilliant. So coming off the bench isn't an issue in terms of, you know, coming into the game. I think he's the type of player who can seamlessly get, you know, to the level of the game. And I think Jesus is the type of player who could be very suited with, you know, his work rate, with, you know, being suited to being a winger, being direct, potentially if there are a few transitions early on where City try get at us. I think it's more suited to start Gabby Jesus. Also, you know, presuming his fitness is more than okay, which you'd hope it is. Obviously, you know, he's come on a few times for us, so hopefully that is the case. But I would start Gabby Jesus in the absence if Gabriel Martinelli isn't there.
Yeah, and hopefully Gabriel Martinelli can have a role to play off the bench. We're going to have to come to a little tiebreaker here, lads. Gabriel Jesus or Leandro Trossard. If you're watching as well, comment Trossard or Jesus to let us know which one we should pick. But you know, Rohan, first of all, you'll pick Jesus, or has Matt's Trossard persuaded you at all? Or
I did the opposite. No.
Did you? No. Which one? Which one do you feel sorry then, Matt?
Jesus.
Okay.
Yeah.
And Rohan, you're Jesus as well. Okay. we're going to go for Gabriel Jesus then. There we go. And then up front, Rohan, do you want to introduce who Arsenal striker will be for? You're muted at the moment. Sorry,
I was going to
Rohan.
say you might want to unmute yourself first. And then
Sorry.
I have to say,
Okay.
I've not done that for so long as well.
Initially, I was like, "How long do we leave it?" And then
You just didn't see me stop her. Yeah, no, it has to be the big man. Minerals Verts. Is that what it is? I'm not even
Minerals.
sure.
That is disgraceful.
Oh
not
no.
not as disgraceful as Brentford's attempted finishing tonight, though.
this United
but-
dagger is going to be interesting.
Is it still? I was looking at the score.
We are 9 minutes in added time. It's still 0-0. Let me get the stats up. Brentford have had
Just while you're
Man
getting the
United.
stats up, by the way, apologies for any mic issues on my part. I think it's been sorted now, so sorry.
been-
Yeah,
that's
mate, you're
been
sounding
awful.
fine now.
Yeah, it's
You're sounding fine now. But Brentford have had a massive 29 shots.
29.
29
gonna-
shots.
United are overtaking Sheffield United very soon in the total shots to concede this season. And
29 shots. Go on.
No, that's just unfathomable. Imagine that.
It doesn't matter because Garnacho was onside and Gabriel fouled Holland. It doesn't matter.
Brentford had 29 shots, but only 4 on target. And Man United have had 9 shots and 4 on target. So
They had blindfolds on.
mental.
Like,
I'm actually happy I didn't watch it because I think I would have been frustrated by Brentford.
yeah. You know, it's a really frustrating game, and possession has been Brentford 47%, Man United 53%. So there you go.
I think it's quite a traditional Brentford game, by the way, in the sense that they've played well, but they just can't quite seem to get the results at the minute. And it's
and PME won't like me, but Ivan Toney's been awful in this game. So let's talk about our Arsenal 11 for the game. We've got David Raya in goal, Ben White right back, centre back partnership of Saliba and Gabriel. Left back, we went for Kivior in the end. Tomiyasu, hopefully to play a role off the bench or something like that. And I'm sure he'll play a huge role between now and the end of the season. Midfield combination is Jorginho and Declan Rice. Martin Odegaard in the 10. Bukayo Saka on the right. We went for Gabriel Jesus on the left in the end instead of Leandro Trossard. And then up front, we went for Minerals Vert. So
I hate to pause, but the United dagger has.
have we got the United? I'm behind you, Matt. You've ruined it for me. There's a United dagger.
Has it actually happened?
Casemiro to number 7. Who's number 7? It's
No way.
He's scored. Mason Mount.
I heard the reaction from downstairs, and then
Mason Mount has
brilliant
so
goal, by
happy
the
I
way.
didn't
But
watch this game.
it's just
I'm so happy
it's
I
just
didn't watch
quite
this
funny,
game.
isn't it?
Mason Mount. Mason Mount
poor
has
Brentford.
scored a 96th minute winner after Brentford had 29 shots, 30
It's just
shots
the
now.
most Brentford
They've hit
game
the
to happen,
30
though.
mark.
Like they've played
They've hit the
very well
30
in a
mark.
lot of games. You know, they don't. From what I've seen a lot of the time, not to go off a tangent or go off topic, but they've played very well and done that in a lot of games, and they've come out the complete wrong end of things. And as I said, it's results-based business, and United seem to excel at that when they play absolutely abysmally for 99% of games. So impressive.
Yeah, and do you know what? As much as it is frustrating to see United score a 96-minute winner after Brentford have been so dominant, and of course Arsenal love to see Manchester United struggling, there is an element of slight niceness to see, you know, Mason Mount fit.
I was going to say,
you know,
I'm very happy for
playing
Mount.
decent.
I'm really rating
Yeah,
him, but yeah.
he seems like a nice guy and a decent footballer, and you know, it's been a long time that he's not been playing the football that I think a lot of people have known he's capable of. But enough of that United glazing. We're not doing any more of that. So if you missed that, that was our 11 we went for. The headlines, of course, were that still Kivior at left back, and we went for Jesus at left wing instead of Trossard. Lads, it has been a pleasure to speak to you. Big shout out to 368 legends that are watching the stream right now. Please do subscribe, follow us. All of that stuff is, you know, really appreciated. On YouTube, AFC Newsday. On Twitter /X at AFC Newsday. Rohan, thank you so much again for your time, my friend. We'll look forward to tomorrow and speaking on that one, Matt. It will be a decent game. I'm afraid I'm not able to come up to London to watch it with you, so I'll watch it from home. But mate, I can't wait for it. Lads, we're gonna have to get some score predictions from yourselves. Who wants to start? Go on, Matt.
I feel like the Man United game is still on. Matt's just reacted to it, or
I tried to. I'd say watch the.
Wait a second! Brentford have scored. Brentford have scored.
I felt
It's
like
1-1.
I
It's
clocked it with
1-1.
Matt.
I was just like that. I was like, I don't want to like. I'm not trying.
Wait
to,
a second. Who is it?
That on,
Is
he
it
on?
Mbuemo?
I think it's
No, it's a defender. I think it was
defender. Oh my
I was like,
word.
hold your horses there. You're trying
Hold
to.
your
I was like,
horses.
don't wrap this up just yet.
I knew it. I knew Matt was there was something happened.
Something was happening.
Yeah.
The ball was there shouts of offside? No, Tony's onside.
3 of them were off, but I don't
Tony
know.
Tony brings it down in the box, works it to the byline, plays it back, and number 20, Brentford number 20.
I think I could tell by his reaction. The thing is that I got confused because he reacted, just picked the ball up and went away.
Yeah.
So I was thinking, okay, they had got like a corner and they're just really quick now.
Brentford number 20 is Aya. Yeah. Lovely little finish into the back of the net. And Manchester United tears can continue. Sorry. No, I'm joking. It's good to see Brentford scoring.
I promise
lads,
I'm not that like, fixated. It's just Premier
No,
League
yes.
brilliant.
It's just exciting to have 90 minutes of football and no goals, but the second you get into added time, you get 2. There you go. Lads, can I please get your score predictions? Rohan, I'll come to you first if you've had time to.
Got it. 1-0. A 1-0 win. Gabriel header from a corner. Feel it.
Nice.
Feel it.
From a set piece. Matt?
2-1 to the Arsenal. Ødegaard, sweeping finish. Havertz header. Thank you. And probably De Bruyne, but no, Haaland, because De Bruyne's too obvious. He has to have an off day against us. Okay.
I was going to go for 2-1 as well. I'm not going to go too risky or edgy. I'm going to say 2-1 to the Arsenal as well. Lads, it's been an absolute pleasure. Thank you so much for sticking with us tonight. Shout out to everyone that's still watching. Please do subscribe. Like, comment down below what your opinions are for what the lineup should be. Arsenal versus Manchester City tomorrow in the Premier League. It promises to be an absolutely huge occasion. Let's hope the game delivers and Arsenal can get over the line and get the win. Take care, everyone. Have a good night.